All right, guys, I'm
Now-
going to play the prelude. Feel free to come up and drop a stone for any joys and sorrows during the prelude.
Let us center our thoughts and hearts for what we'll hear this morning. For those of you at home, prepare for this service in your own way. Thanks, Michael. Good morning, everyone. I'm so glad that some of you were able to make it. I know we have several people out of town this weekend. Alan, can you tell us who's on Zoom today?
All right, we have Koa, Marty, Mel, Norina General, Sally, and Suzanne.
Good morning, you guys. I think we have a couple of visitors today. If you're willing, we would love to hear who you are. If you're willing, could you stand up and tell us your name?
Hi, my name is Rebecca.
We have Rebecca. Okay, we welcome you and hope you'll join us after the service. We do have a little project going on after service, but we do have some refreshments, coffee and drinks in the Quimby room. Just follow the crowd back. You'll know where we're all going. So we welcome you. My name is Vicki. I'm the service leader this morning. I've been calling the gathering my home for almost a year and a half. We are a lay-led Unitarian Universalist community embracing spiritual liberalism. We're bound by no creed or dogma. We're a community where you can be yourself, regardless of race, sexual orientation, socioeconomic status, your ethnic or religious background. We embrace pluralism, enriched by what diversity brings to us. In this ever-changing world, we support transformational journeys individually and locally. Love is the central power that unites us and encourages us. So inside your program, you'll see a list of announcements. Look over them yourself. But of particular note is today is the day that we assemble the hygiene kits. So please hang around and help because we have a lot of kits to assemble. Do we have any other important announcements to make? Anybody say anything? Okay. So I've asked, oh my gosh, I just got a brain fart here. Come on up here. And I talk to this lady all the time, but please light our chalice for us today. Recite with us.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
religious quest often involves a passionate, exhausting search for meaning, moving from formal rituals to an inward spiritual realization. And with that thought, I found this poem about searching. It's a compilation of a couple works put together. It's called The Inner Traveler. Through temples old and silent shrines, I sought the light in ancient lines. I climbed the hills and crossed the sea to find the thing that lived in me. I asked sages, I searched the books, in desperate prayers and upward looks, yet echo answered, seeker, find. The truth you seek is in your mind. No further journey needs the soul when love within makes broken whole. The flame I sought in distant lands, I found at last in my own hands. And that was by Vivekananda and Clifford. So let's join together on our opening hymn, Wake Now My Senses, page 298.
Please stand and sing with me, guys.
I don't have that book up here.
Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work towards a planet transformed by our care.
While you're standing, let's join in on the unison affirmation. We pledge to create a welcoming community that celebrates human diversity, encourages spiritual growth, fosters responsiveness to our world, and commits to the future of all children. Have a seat. So, our guest speaker today is going to talk about why we should study Buddhism. When I was looking into this, Buddhism has influenced Unitarian and Universalism for a long time, with shared values in compassion, social justice, and individual spiritual exploration without dogma. So this, our guest speaker today is Tisa McGraw. The study of spirituality has been a lifelong passion of hers. She's studied many, many areas of spirituality, including Buddhism, secular humanism, paganism, Celtic, and shamanism. She began practicing Buddhism itself in 2000. She is a Buddhist minister, trained in Shambhala Buddhism at several of their centers, both internationally and stateside. Having been in healing professions since young, She now incorporates Buddhist philosophy in several areas of the healing arts. She is especially involved as a death doula, providing emotional, spiritual, and practical support to individuals and families as they navigate the dying process. She also teaches online classes for meditation and Buddhism. And with that, I turn the mic over to Tisa. Kick my stool out of the way here.
Thank you. Thank you, Vicki. Thanks, everyone, for being here, and welcome. I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad you're all here. So thank you for coming. And I have a lot to do here today. So in 20 minutes, I am going to condense about 2,600 years of wisdom. So, you know, no tall order. But why would people study Buddhism? Well, because it's rooted in compassion, number one. And compassion that's informed by wisdom. And it's really cool, it's really fun, and you get to meditate. I mean, you know, okay, my job here is done, right? But the bottom line being that there are teachings, so when we look at the vast body of knowledge, there are somewhere between 57 and 85 books, volumes of teachings that the Buddha left behind. And over the 2,600 years that Buddhism has been in the world, people have added to that. People have interpreted and reinterpreted that. There are huge cultural influences that have been brought in from all kinds of parts of the world. And so for us as American Westerners, Buddhism's only been in this country about 100 years. So it's a relatively new spiritual path. It's a relatively new way of looking at things for people. So I'm here to kind of introduce that. One of the things about this whole, many, many volumes of teachings is that they've been tried and tested and worked with a lot. So over the centuries, many monastics, many students have worked with these teachings in an effort to feel, is this actually offering something real or not? And so at the bedrock of all Buddhist teachings is this idea of meditation. So I'm going to ask that we spend just a couple of minutes in meditation. So, if you will, take a comfortable but upright posture, feet on the floor, feel the earth below you, and ground into that sense of solidness that we can depend on. The earth supporting us. Trust in that sense of here I am, sitting in my place on the earth. Then allow yourself to feel into the sky above us, recognizing all the wide open space, fresh air, sunshine, clouds, blue sky, and allowing ourselves to connect with that as well, recognizing that as a human, we are connecting heaven and earth. Allow yourself to just simply tune into your breathing. And as thoughts arise, just come back to your breath. Come back to the experience of your body being present. Just give your mind just a couple minutes here to settle and be quiet. And we'll sit in just a couple minutes of silence. In silence, our hearts open. Thank you, and welcome back. So who was the Buddha? Just briefly. Again, much I could say about all these topics. The word Buddha is simply a title. It's a title that means the awakened one, or the enlightened one, or one who has come to a very deep realization of the truth of what's going on in the world around us, in our minds, and everything. There have been many Buddhas. There were Buddhas in the past. There will be Buddhas in the future. The Buddha that we frequently refer to, who lived 2,600 years ago, is called Shakyamuni. And his name was Gautama, Siddhartha Gautama. And he got the title of Shakyamuni because he was of the Shakya tribe, which means he's a prince of the Shakya. What happened for this particular Buddha was he had this realization, he had this enlightenment experience, and then he came back and started teaching. When he began to teach, he shared with people that there are 84,000 dharmas, so 84,000 ways in which we could reach enlightenment. So the path is vast and deep, and the teachings offer us a lot of things that we could study. So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of path. It allows us to find our own wisdom and our own way into working with that. So in trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to bring this all together, one of the things that runs through all the different types, different streams of Buddhism is the idea of taking refuge. And that's also called the three jewels. So the three jewels are the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. In this idea of taking refuge, if we look at like a Webster's dictionary kind of definition, it means that we feel safe, sheltered, protected from distress, comforted, and offered sanctuary. So in the Buddhist sense, we're extending that into overcoming the difficulties of our minds and all the confusion that we bring in with our emotional content and all the other things that we do. But taking refuge means that you would see the Buddha as the teacher, the example. You would see the Dharma as the body of teachings, and you would see the Sangha as your friends, your compatriots who are on the path with you. And so you're kind of making a commitment to those three things when you take refuge. There's a formalized ceremony, a vow, et cetera, et cetera. But for many people, it's not formal. It's more that they want to look at, okay, I do want to learn from this body of teachings, so therefore, how do I do that? So taking refuge runs through all these different streams from, Japan to China to Vietnam to Tibet, India, etc., right? So all these different places would offer that same starting point. When we take refuge, we are protecting ourselves from our negative emotions. We're being willing to wake up to the truth about how our behaviors are frequently motivated by what are known as the three poisons: passion, aggression, and ignorance. Sounds kind of bad at first, but this sense of delusion and anger, hatred, and also ignorance being that we're in denial about a lot of things. We're avoiding things. So for an Eastern religion, we're bringing in a lot of concepts that don't always translate well into English. So there are times when these things have been put forward in one way or another, depending on who was talking about it and how they wanted to maybe kind of spin it, you might say. But the bottom line being that translations have been worked and reworked now so that people are beginning to understand a little more clearly what was actually being said. So, taking refuge, we're seeing the Buddha as this enlightened teacher, this human being who is offering solutions to very human problems. A human being who woke up to some kind of a truth that caused him to be, he radiated light. So when we talk about enlightenment, he radiated incredible light. And because of that radiating of incredible light, people were like, what's up with you? What did you do? What did you change? How can I get some of that, right? So people were attracted to what the Buddha was, his vibe, right? You could say it that way. So he had an awakened heart. One of the pieces that is talked about that's harder to translate is this idea of a heart-mind. So we tend to look at this as the mind, right, all this heady stuff. But this, in Eastern thought, is the seat of the mind. Not just this organ that's pumping blood around your body, but this area, this heart chakra, if you will, that offers us emotional intelligence, right? So we're bringing in this sense of connecting to a deeper truth because it feels right. Okay, so the Dharma are the teachings that offer the methods, right? So at the base of that, yes, we are going to have meditation. But if there are 84,000 ways to work with the Dharma, then there's a lot of different paths we could go down. So there are going to be teachings that appeal to everyone, teachings that are not so resonant with you, but it's a chance to look at those teachings, to practice and study, to tame our wild minds. You do that with your Sangha, your group of friends, and so those would be people who are basically your peers, your compatriots on the path, but also people who inspire us, people who are maybe a little further down the path, have more to offer. They can be like role models, but the bottom line being the Sangha is this enlightened community, a community that bands together to create enlightened society. So instead of banding together against a common enemy, which is one of the things we've been taught a lot, this is more a sense of let's band together because we want to create peace for ourselves and others. We want to create more peace in the world. And so let's just keep that peace thing going. Let's dedicate ourselves to more and more and more peace. Okay. I want to allow time for questions because I feel like that's super important. So.
Yeah, you go ahead and talk, and then I'll open it up for.
Okay. All right. So, according to Webster's dictionary again, Buddhism is defined as one of the world's major religions, and it is also a philosophy rooted in understanding human suffering and offering practical practices to enlightenment and offering that through meditation and ethical behavior. It is based on the teachings of the Buddha. It is indeed a way of life. And the underlying principle here is this sense of basic goodness. That everything, all of us, the world, etc., is basically good. So we're starting from this place of basic goodness, which is difficult for a lot of us to trust. And so the practices, the teachings, everything that happens support this idea of coming back to basic goodness. Okay, so letting go of that for a minute. Why might you study Buddhism? There's no need for conversion. There's no sense of blind faith. You could study Buddhism and still be a Catholic or a UU or whatever, right? There's no need to say, okay, I'm only a Buddhist. So from the Buddhist point of view, everyone's welcome. everyone's welcome to practice and study. And if you get more involved, then, that's the point at which you take some vows and do some things differently. Questions are encouraged. A lot of effort is put into trying things out, testing the teachings, making sure that it feels right for you. So if there's something you don't understand, you question it, you experiment with it, you put it to the test for yourself to find out if you can trust your own experience instead of somebody telling you this is your experience, right? This sense of, let's trust our experience because our experience is basically good. How do we rectify that when we're feeling basically bad? Okay. It is deeply personal. For many people, studying Buddhism has to do with they're called to it because they read about a teaching, or they're interested in meditation, or they heard a chant somewhere that they're just like, wow, that's really cool, I love it. Or they see a statue of the Buddha and they're like, there's something, right? So there's a sense of it speaks to us, which can be a deeply personal, deeply meaningful, heartfelt connection. There's a deep desire to understand our human experience. I think all of us share that. For Buddhists in general, it's about starting to recognize that your life is the path, and you're going to work with whatever arises. There's a saying that runs through many of the teachings about making friends with ourselves. So when we sit in meditation, we're making friends with our thoughts, making friends with who we really are, making friends with all of the things that might challenge us. And why would we want to be friendly towards that? Well, if we can be kind and friendly towards ourselves, that extends out to the rest of the world, right? So we start here because this is what we know best. There are many paths, as I mentioned before. And so in the Buddha's life, he had kind of 3 stages of teaching. The early stage of teaching is called the Hinayana, also known as Theravadan, if you've heard that term. And these were the earliest teachings when he first was enlightened and started teaching people, and he wasn't quite sure, well, I shouldn't say he wasn't quite sure, but he was deciding how he would teach people. And so this sense of it's a more narrow vehicle, that's how it translates, which sounds kind of goofy, but this idea of if we take a more restricted view, we don't try to open up to all these big bazillions of things, that might be a really good way for some people to go. And then in the middle stage of his life, he taught what's known as the Mahayana. This is the great vehicle, and it has a lot to do with opening up to the rest of the world. So in the Hinayana, it's more this view of I've got to get my stuff together, right? I've got to get me together, I've got to figure it out, and I'm trusting that you all are going to do that for yourselves. Versus in the Mahayana, you're coming into, okay, I feel like I've kind of gotten my stuff together, and I'd like to be able to extend that to others. Oops. I'd like to be able to extend that to others. I'd like to be able to share that. I'd like to be able to really root into what it means to express compassion and participate together in that. And then the third stage of the Buddha's life is where we get into the more mystical, esoteric, kind of out there concepts called the Vajrayana, which some people have heard translated as Tantra. And the Vajrayana has to do with recognizing everything as energy. And how do we work with the energy that flows through everything without getting overly attached in any one space, right? So the Vajrayana has a lot to do with visualizations and waking up this energetic vibe that can circulate throughout the whole world and create more peace. So some people are very happy in one stream or another. These would include things like Zen and Pure Land Buddhism, Theravadan Buddhism, Tibetan. There are a lot of different ways you can go with this. So in that Hinayana early teachings, this is where people may have heard of the Four Noble Truths. And that's usually where people have you start, but for many of us, we were like, no thanks. So that was not where I started, but for a lot of people, this is where they start. So the Four Noble Truths have to do with suffering is real, people are suffering, there's a way out of the suffering, and here's what it is. Okay. So for many of us, hearing that word suffering was kind of a turnoff. Again, potentially a mistranslation. So what it basically is referring to, dukkha is the Sanskrit word. So dukkha is referring to this sense of unsatisfactoriness, like I'm dissatisfied, I'm unhappy with this, I'm stressed out about it, I feel a sense of dis-ease, right? Not sickness, but I'm not easy with this. This just doesn't feel right to me. Something's bugging me. That kind of suffering. Not so much as, yes, certainly we're going to include all the more active forms of suffering, but this has a lot more to do with just starting to recognize that humans have this kind of like uneasiness. What's that about? So starting there, and then recognizing that in the second noble truth, there's a reason. We're dissatisfied with things because they don't last. They're impermanent, right? Things are constantly changing. And because they are constantly changing, people are constantly trying to maneuver, and so that creates some suffering, right? We recognize that happiness is fleeting, we want to hold on to it, but guess what? Energy flows, and things change, okay? And we don't like that. So the solution in the third noble truth has a lot to do with recognizing that we can transform this path of suffering or dissatisfaction into some kind of wisdom. What's going on here? Can I let go of my attachment to the outcome? Would be how that gets said a lot of times. In other words, I wish I had $1 million, and if I don't get it, I'm going to be a real poophead about it. Okay. Instead, we could look at that a little differently, right? I don't have to wish for that. I can be open to it, and I can see that my attachment to that might be causing me pain. It might be causing me to avoid things that could be good for me. Very simple example. And then the fourth noble truth, that's the path, right? It's called the Eightfold Path, the middle way, but basically it's these behaviors that bring us onto a path of ethical conduct. And in that path of ethical conduct, we've got things like not lying and not stealing and not killing people and stuff like that, right? So things that people would recognize as ethical behaviors. That path also contains meditation and wisdom. And when we look at meditation, we can all sit here and meditate, and what Buddhism is inviting us to do is to study as well, to practice meditation and to study the teachings so that we're bringing in more knowledge, more wisdom. Okay. So the Four Noble Truths kind of run through a lot of stuff. And you will find them in most of the schools of Buddhism. Some of them start with other topics first. And so usually where a lot of the streams of Buddhism would start is with compassion. So without compassion, it's kind of a rough world to live in, right? So compassion is, in this sense, defined as the sincere wish to alleviate pain. So you have this sincere desire to alleviate both your own pain and the pain and suffering of others. When we recognize pain, our hearts tend to open to it. And that heart-opening warmth is where we're extending some kind of good feeling towards ourselves and others. Compassion is meant to be grounded. And sincere and skillful, right? That we're not doing stuff that is not actually helpful. So when we're feeling a lot of sympathy or pity, when we're feeling like we have to fix something, when we're feeling like we really have to get emotionally involved, this over-emotional piece of it is not considered to be part of compassion, because compassion has this groundedness. How do we stay in grounded compassion? That's where the wisdom comes in. So these two are constantly working together. So we open our hearts with this sense of compassion, which is marvelous and we need and is good for everybody. But how do we balance that? How do we have boundaries, as we would typically say? That's wisdom. Wisdom gives us insight. Wisdom gives us knowledge. Wisdom is where we have the whole practice and study kind of thing going on. There's an intellectual understanding, yes, and that is meant to get us into a deeper knowing that's more centered in the heart. So sometimes we come in through the mind with like all these teachings, blah, 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 but then we recognize that's landing as a really deep truth for me. I feel it. I feel it. And so wisdom and compassion working together. So another of the three. Buddhism likes to number things, it seems. So we have these three poisons of passion, aggression, and delusion. And then we have these three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. And then we have these this threefold purity of looking at wisdom, compassion, and enlightenment. When we're bringing those together, it leads to a sense of enlightenment. So when we have those moments of recognizing, wow, that, said something to me, that's a moment of enlightenment. And it's a very important thing. You don't have to hold on to it, just recognize it. But that instantaneous, oh, very important. So what would it be like to live like that? So that's what the teachings are telling us, is that the Buddha woke up enough to be in that space all the time. So running through all of the teachings, we have wisdom and compassion at the bottom. And then we're also going to have the teachings on karma. Karma in the West has kind of come to be this, what goes around comes around kind of thing. And yeah, there is that aspect of karma. Yeah, there is that. Do unto others kind of thing. But karma is much, much more than that. The word karma itself means action, and that also gets translated into cause and effect. I do something, there's a result, right? I cause this, this happens, right? But all of us are constantly generating karma. And all of that karma is interconnected and interdependent. And everything that happens has this sense of interdependent arising. Everything is feeding into everything all the time. That's a lot, right? So, yeah. So we start to recognize that, when a butterfly flaps its wings in South America, it affects us, right? It's that sort of an idea where everything is interdependent. How do we stop creating karma, good or bad? How do we just stop? And so one of the ways that the Buddha has offered is meditation. When we're sitting in silent meditation, we're not creating bad karma. We're not creating really any karma, but we might be creating good karma. We probably are. And so at the end of every meditation session or Buddhist practice, we offer it. Whatever good was generated, we offer it out to the world, that it might be of benefit to everyone. So karma, I'm sorry, is it time to stop?
Probably wind down a little bit.
Okay, so, all right, I have to start bringing this to a close, I guess. So karma. Lot I could say there, obviously. A lot going on with karma. So we have personal karma, we have collective karma as a society, we have karma from past lives. So Buddhism is into reincarnation. And then we have the idea of impermanence. So I mentioned that before. So again, impermanence leads us into a lot of the spaces where we start to have difficulties. We get things the way we want them, and then they're going to change, and we don't like that. So how do we learn to respond instead of react or overreact? Right? So we're looking at all those pieces. The confused emotions that often arise are part of that grasping, clinging. I want it this way, I don't want it that way, right? I like it, I hate it. Can we come to a middle ground with those kinds of emotions, thoughts, and ideas? So, Buddhism offers a lot of psychological teachings. So for many people, when they choose to study Buddhism, they're drawn in because they've been in therapy, or they've been working with their suffering and their unhappiness from some point of view, and they want a little more support, right? Therapy can get us so far, and it gets us really far, but there are some spiritual pieces that tend to come in. So how do we satisfy the part of us that wants that? So Buddhism teaches something about the 5 wisdom energies, things that we call the kleshas, where our confused emotions are attempting to show us something so that we can wake up to the enlightened emotion, right? If I'm in a lot of greedy, needy, speedy yuck, right? What is that trying to tell me? That I'm afraid of something. What can I wake up to? Appropriate actions, appropriate behaviors. How do I step into this with some kind of wisdom and compassion instead of, let me just knock everybody down and get what I want, right? So that kind of thing. So since I'm coming to the end here, I'm going to mention that Vicki pointed out that I'm a Shambhala trained person. So Shambhala is a stream of Tibetan Buddhism. So that's what I know more than other things. I do study with the Zen people some as well. But in the Shambhala path, there's this focus on starting with basic goodness. So can I be present and really trust I can be here? I can be here, fully present. It's okay. And once I recognize that, can I cultivate gentleness and kindness towards myself? Can I make friends with myself? And can I let go of having to control and having to get things perfect because it's kind of not possible? And once I'm in that space, can I awaken my confidence? Can I awaken my heart? Can I trust that my emotions are allowed and they're trying to teach me something that's very valuable? And through that trust and vulnerability, I come up against my fear. And how do I develop more fearlessness? If I know fear, I must know something about fearlessness. And that's where we would work with developing our inner strength, and then coming to trust this sense of everyday magic, that every day we're confronted with a sacred world that's offering us all kinds of teachings, our life path, everything we do, everybody we interact with, all the stuff is showing us these teachings on wisdom and compassion and how we can move forward in life. So these are some of the reasons why people might study Buddhism. So my last quote here is, humans are basically good. With awareness, we can live with more openness, courage, compassion, wisdom, and peace. Thank you. Say it.
I think we can probably incorporate a lot of that into Unitarianism, Universalism. It's not really that complicated, the basic roots. But let's open this up for any congregational response. Does anybody have any comments, questions you'd like to put to Tisa, please?
Jim finally found a way to shut me up. Tisa, thank you so much. I really appreciated that. Just my own personal reflections and listening to your talk, my own search for a spiritual path is always an answer to three questions. What can I know? What should I do? What should I hope for? And my takeaway from your talk is that what I can know is a heart-mind. What I can know is basic goodness. What must I do is always put practice in front of creed and practice compassion. And then what should I hope for? I should hope for an enlightened community that can keep me searching for greater enlightenment. So that's my kind of takeaway. The second thing was, I'm always kind of interested in the relationship between well-being and well-doing. And I see Western, particularly Christian religions as saying, well-being only comes after well-doing. You've got to get grace and and I've tended to see Eastern religions as really finding a sense of well-being and goodness, and that leads to the well-doing. So that's just my very simplistic take on why I should study Buddhism.
I think you've got it. Thank you. You summarized it very well.
Tell us your name when you're talking so the people on Zoom know who's speaking. Right. I think everybody knows Tom's voice, but
True. My name is Wright. I also really appreciated the bit about the sort of heart-mind because it... Okay, cool. It actually reminds me of some stuff when I was studying in college about I believe it was mind-body, and that was particularly relevant to disability studies and understanding that you can't really view the mind as a separate organ from the body, that just even from a scientific perspective, even small things like, when you eat, when you sleep, that impacts your ability to approach the world and its outlook. And a lot of that ties into basically something that in the little bits and pieces of Buddhist wisdom that I've accumulated over the years, is that a lot of it has to do with addressing that, with the centrality of meditation, continually coming back to that, state of the body, keeping it in a sort of neutral and open position, and that being a really good guide. And so hearing you speak, it reminded me a lot of that and its importance, and so it was very nice to have another perspective and get a bit more, to learn a bit more about that, and so I appreciated it a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, coming back to the body is very, very important. Trusting our experience.
Hi, this is Jack Brennan. Tisa, I feel kind of like Wright, that over my life I've gotten little pieces of Buddhist wisdom here and there from you and other people and doing the Shambhala path. One thing that struck me out of your talk this morning, it hit me to the contrast between basic goodness and original sin. What a totally different way to look at life.
Yeah.
And just one other comment and one quick question. When you said suffering, described it more as a feeling of unsatisfactoriness. I think I have a lot of that in my life. I struggle, and I think you're just not satisfactory here, 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 and here. And my question is, how did the Buddha or was the Buddha, did he live in India?
Yes.
Okay,
Near Nepal.
okay. How did he get enlightened?
Oh, God.
Is there any?
Well, let's see. The short version is that the Buddha started out as a prince. He saw people suffering, and then that inspired him, that aroused his compassion enough that he became a student of various sages and Hindu teachers, and he studied for many years. And he starved himself, he nearly died. He did all kinds of ascetic practices. And finally, he sat under the Bodhi tree for 40 days, and he awakened. One of the things that awakened him was he was almost dying. He was leaving his body from starvation. And a beautiful woman named Sujata came and fed him a spoonful of rice, milk, and honey. And when he took it into his mouth, he recognized, I don't have to do this way. There's a middle way. He remembered this sense of peace and joy and wonderfulness of, sitting under an apple tree and waiting for the apple to fall and eating the apple. And so there's a whole bunch of really, there's a lot I could say, but that probably is the shortest version I can give. He studied and practiced a lot. Yeah.
Anybody on Zoom? Doesn't look like. When we were in Hong Kong, we made sure to go see the giant Buddha. It's out in the middle of a forest, as I remember. I wasn't sure that the bus we're on was going to get there. But it is amazing.
It is.
And if you ever get a chance to see it, it's very worthwhile.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have one more.
Oh, sorry. You were in my blind spot.
Hello, this is Ryan.
Hi.
Thank you so much for this and for all the work you've done in your ministry. Just thank you.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a more personal question about your experience, because Buddhism has essentially been with me my whole life, thanks to my father. In one sense, it's like Christianity and Islam in the sense that it's a truly international religion. But in terms of its presence in the West, it's a bit more recent. Whenever I tell people that about my dad and his Buddhism and how I got it from him, to be honest, I'm always a little self-deprecating in the sense that I say, oh, he's kind of a typical Western Buddhist type, as am I in so many ways, all the new agey connotations and all that, which are not bad things,
No.
but they have certain stereotypes that I try to be conscious of. But I think what I've seen is that despite, what people may think about the disconnect between like a white Western Buddhist or like a Japanese, trained Zen master, the interaction between them has still been very productive. And I'm just curious to hear about your experience with that, how natural has it felt? Has there been any sort of challenge in sort of, reaching the position of comfort and confidence that you now have in the tradition? Does that make sense?
I think it does. I hope I'm going to answer the right question.
Yeah.
My personal experience was, it might be helpful to say this, I was in a workshop. I was a social worker, and I was in a workshop about how to work with people's anger. And one of the other participants was just like, everything she said was just brilliant. And so I asked her, where did you learn all this? And she said, I'm a Buddhist chaplain. And I connected right there and then. And the first time that I went and sat down in a Shambhala group, I was just like, oh, I'm home. I know this from many lives. I know this from many experiences, and this is for me. So I've never had any difficulties. Now, do I struggle with my own emotions and my own confusion? Oh, yeah. But as far as following the path, it was just really clear to me. It was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do as much of it as I can before I get too old to do it and to not do it. So, yeah, it was never a problem.
That's beautiful.
Did
Thank
I
you.
answer the
Absolutely.
right question?
Perfect. Perfect.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And just so I let people know, I do have an upcoming class online, so if anybody's interested in that, just talk with me. Oh, one more.
Hi, Rebecca. So I just wanted to say I really appreciated that part where you spoke of how we react to change, that pathway to peace. It made me think of radical acceptance through gratitude, and I just want to, I don't know, get to experience more of that with you. That's something that I'm currently struggling with, is seeing gratitude in everything, and being able to keep a hold of that peaceful energy through all the many changes that in life recently. So I don't know, I definitely want to speak with you afterwards and see what kind of classes that you say that you offer, and what I can do to kind of grasp that peaceful pathway as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Good? Good. Thank you, everyone, so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tisa. I think you opened up a lot of thoughts here. So I don't know if anybody saw the little quotation at the top of our program, but I'm going to read it in case you didn't see it. If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. I kind of like that. So now is the time for our offertory and reflection. We're going to play a little bit of a Buddhist chant on here. It's quite long. It's about 6 minutes, so we won't play that much of it, but I just thought it was really pretty. It's chanted by a Buddhist group. There's Andrew. Andrew will come around. Those of you who are visitors, please let the basket pass you by. Our congregation is held together by love and friendship, but it is financial resources that keep the lights on and keep us running along here. So with that, we're going to listen to a little bit of the Heart Sutra.
The insight that brings us to the other shore.
It is a much longer thing. It is called the Heart Sutra. It's on YouTube. You can find it if you want to listen to all of it. And Tisa here was, Tisa was singing along with it. She knows all of it. So now is the time to share our joys and concerns. Here again, just please give us your name before we start. And sharing helps us, whether it's joyful or sorrowful.
Hi, I'm Betsy Anderson. I had a call from Paul Miles this week, and his wife Donna has passed away. I did send a card to him, and we're all sad to hear that, but I think things are better for her now. She was suffering a lot. Also, I've heard from Ruth, and she has moved to the Glendale place on Glendale Milford Road for rehab. I have her address if you would like it. See me in the kitchen or in the Quimby room, and I can give that to you. She also expressed the wish to have the next book, if anybody has a copy of the next book that the book club is discussing. I think it's The God of the Woods. She would love to have a copy of it so that she can read while she's in rehab and then participate in the book club. Last of all, I wanted to mention that it is Mel's and General's birthday today. So let's all give them a big birthday song.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Mel and General. Happy birthday to you.
Marsha.
I just want to tell everybody how happy I am to be back. It's been, first it was 3 or 4 weeks with one problem, and then it was 7 weeks with a broken pelvis. And so I am now walking, and I have given away my walker. That was a moment of thinking, okay, no, you can have it. And so I can't tell you how glad I am to be back.
It's good to have you back.
We're glad to see you back too, Marcia.
Anybody on Zoom?
Here's Jack.
I just want to offer up something to everybody. If you didn't notice on your way out, that tree that's right on the edge of our parking lot, it is just flowering in such profusion. Check it out.
Good, we'll do that. Okay, I think that's it. Okay, so let's stand and sing aloud. Filled with loving kindness, 1031. I believe that's in the blue book.
This is the loving kindness meditation. May I be filled with loving kindness. May you be filled with loving kindness. And then may we be filled with loving kindness. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
Very appropriate. Thank you, Michael. I'm just going to give a couple closing words here. It's a poem by Dr. Breeden called Practice the Growing. Go out into the world, not to be perfect, but to practice, to be a practitioner of compassion. Wherever you go today, may you seed compassion. May your hands remember how to trend. May your heart how to return when compassion is hard. For no garden grows in a day, but they grow. Go in peace and practice growing. And that concludes our service today. Go in peace. Please join us in the Quimby room to help us put together hygiene kits and also for some refreshments. Tina will be around for a few minutes for anybody who wants to talk to her a little bit. To those of you on Zoom, stay connected for some post-service chat and socialization up there. And thank you, everybody. Go in peace.